5 true scary stories from gas stations that will fuel your nightmares. The night was deep. A velvet darkness stretched across the rural landscape, where the stars hung like distant, indifferent watchers. The only sign of life was the flickering neon sign of the gas station on the side of the road, casting a sickly glow that barely penetrated the surrounding shadows. The pavement was cracked, and weeds had pushed their way through the crevices, asserting their claim over the neglected ground. The wind whispered secrets as it danced through the trees, the branches creaking like the bones of the long-forgotten. As I pulled into the lot, the tires of my truck crunching against the gravel, I couldn't shake the feeling that this place held more than just fuel for my tank. It felt like stepping into a different realm, one where the ordinary morphed into the unsettling. The gas pumps stood like sentinels, their nozzles glinting in the dim light, and I noticed the attendant, a middle-aged man with a weary look, as if he had been standing there for centuries. He gave me a nod, and I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "Evening," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice felt small against the vastness of the night. "Filling up," he replied, his voice gravelly, each word a weighty stone. I nodded and stepped out, the cool air biting against my skin. As I began to pump gas, I felt the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. There was something about this place, a heaviness that pressed down on me, wrapping around my chest like a vice. "Be careful at night," the attendant warned, his eyes narrowing slightly. "This gas station isn't just for refueling your vehicle. It's a portal to darker realities. You'd be surprised at what has happened here." I laughed it off, trying to play the tough guy. Just a gas station, right? But his gaze turned serious, and I sensed he was about to share something deeply unsettling. There are stories, unsettling ones, that travelers have whispered among themselves. Each one has its own horror, hidden behind the ordinary facade of the station. The wind howled, punctuating his words, and I felt a shiver run through me, as if the very air around us was alive with memories of the past. "You might want to listen," he added, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "They're not just stories, they're warnings." As the gas filled my tank, the man began recounting tales of the unsettling events that had transpired at this gas station, and my heart raced. Each tale was like a thread, weaving together a tapestry of fear and dread. They were not mere ghost stories. They were accounts of people who had faced the unknown, who had been touched by the dark side of this seemingly innocuous place. "First, there was the girl who vanished," he began, his eyes clouded with the weight of memory. "She came here one night just like you. She was alone, and as she filled up her tank, she met a man who seemed to know everything about her. It was as if he had been watching her. She went inside to pay, but when she returned, her car was gone, and so was he. No one ever saw her again, and those who worked here swore they had seen him hanging around late at night ever since." I felt my stomach twist, the chill of his words settling deep in my bones. "Then there was the couple," he continued, his voice low and gravelly. "They stopped for gas, just like you. As they were filling up, they began to hear whispers from the pumps. It was soft at first, but it grew louder, revealing secrets about their relationship, truths they had kept hidden from each other. By the time they left, they were in shambles, questioning everything they knew about each other. They never returned, and rumor has it that the whispers still linger, searching for their next victims. With each tale, I felt more ensnared, the weight of the night pressing against me like a tangible force. And then there was the boy who worked the night shift," he added. "He discovered a hidden room in the back, a place that held dark secrets of the station's past. The spirits of those who had died here warned him to leave, but he was too curious. He stayed, and when he finally left, he was never the same. They say he can still feel their eyes on him, even in his dreams." I gulped, my breath quickening, and I looked around as if the shadows were closing in. "There's the paranormal investigator," he continued. "She came to document the hauntings, to capture evidence of the otherworldly. But she found more than she bargained for when she confronted the spirit of a girl who had died in a tragic accident right here. The spirit forced her to relive the event, and when she left, she was forever changed, haunted by the knowledge of what had happened. Finally, he shared the story of the truck driver, just like me, who had begun to experience vivid, horrifying dreams after frequent visits. Each dream revealed the fates of past customers, and the dreams grew darker with each passing night. It was a warning, urging him to take a different route, to escape the grip of the gas station. By the time he finished, the gas was pumped, but my heart was still racing. I could feel the weight of each story settle in the corners of the station, like the shadows that lingered just outside the glow of the neon lights. As I paid the attendant, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, that the gas station held its breath, waiting for my next move. I stepped back into the cold night, glancing at the pumps, half expecting them to whisper my secrets, to reveal my darkest fears. Before I climbed back into my truck, the attendant called out, his voice echoing in the night. Just remember, sometimes the road you choose can lead to the darkest of destinations. And the gas station, well, it's always watching. With that, I drove away, the story swirling in my mind, wondering if I would ever escape the shadows that clung to me, knowing that every gas station held its own nightmares just waiting to be unleashed. Story 1. The Vanishing Customer. The night was deep, with a blanket of stars obscured by the gathering clouds, and the air held an unsettling stillness. The only source of light was the flickering neon sign of a gas station that seemed to struggle against the darkness. It was late, and the young woman driving through the desolate stretch of road felt the weight of isolation pressing down on her like a heavy fog. She had been on the road for hours, her eyelids drooping, the monotony of the highway stretching into an endless blur. As she pulled into the gas station, she glanced around nervously. The few cars scattered across the lot seemed abandoned, relics of a more bustling time. She stepped out of her vehicle, the cool night air biting against her skin, and approached the gas pump where a dim light flickered, casting long shadows on the ground. As she filled her tank, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. That's when she noticed him, a man standing by the entrance of the station. He was tall, cloaked in a dark coat, and his face was partially hidden in the shadows. There was something unsettling about him, but she couldn't pinpoint why. He stared at her with an intensity that made her skin crawl, yet there was a strange familiarity in his gaze, as if he knew her better than she knew herself. "Are you traveling alone?" he asked, his voice low and smooth, breaking the silence of the night. She hesitated, taken aback by his sudden appearance and directness. Just for the night. I have a few hours to drive before I reach home." He smiled, a knowing smile that sent shivers down her spine. "Be careful on the roads. They hold secrets, and sometimes they don't let you go." She laughed nervously, trying to dismiss the weight of his words. "Thanks for the tip, but I'm used to late-night driving." As she continued to pump gas, she stole glances at the man, who seemed unfazed by the chill in the air, standing perfectly still as if he were a statue. He watched her with an unsettling intensity, and she felt her heart race as unease settled deep within her. She finished filling her tank, trying to shake off the feeling of dread that hung over her like a thick fog. "I just need to pay," she said, turning toward the station entrance, eager to put some distance between herself and the man. He nodded slowly, his gaze lingering on her. "I'll be waiting," he said cryptically. Shaking off her unease, she entered the gas station, the bell above the door chiming softly as she stepped inside. The interior was dimly lit, shelf-stocked with snacks and drinks casting shadows that seemed to twist and turn. As she approached the counter, she felt a strange sensation, as if the atmosphere had shifted. The attendant behind the counter barely acknowledged her presence, his eyes glued to a small television screen flickering in the corner. "Just need to pay for the gas," she said, her voice louder than she intended. He nodded, his expression blank, and took her payment without saying a word. As she finished, she felt an unsettling urge to glance back outside. The moment she did, her heart dropped. The man was gone. His absence was immediate, as if he had never been there at all. Panic gripped her as she rushed back outside, her breath quickening. The parking lot was empty, and her car was the only vehicle in sight. "Hello," she called out, her voice trembling in the quiet. The wind howled in response, mocking her. The night had swallowed the man whole, and she was left alone in the cold. She sprinted to her car, her heart pounding, only to find it just as she had left it. Except for one thing, her driver's side door was ajar. She had locked it. She slammed it shut, the sound echoing through the stillness, and slid into the driver's seat, her hands shaking as she turned the key in the ignition. As the engine roared to life, she looked around frantically, searching for any sign of the man. The gas station seemed unchanged, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something dark lingered just out of sight. Was she losing her mind? Had he really been there? With a racing heart, she sped away, the gas station disappearing in her rearview mirror. The road stretched ahead, but the man's face lingered in her mind, haunting her thoughts. The next morning, she recounted the night's events to the locals at a diner where she stopped for coffee, trying to make sense of it all. Their reactions were disbelieving, but as she described the man, she noticed their faces pale. "You're not the first to see him," an older man finally said, his voice low. "He's been gone for years. That gas station, it has its ghosts. People come and go. But that man? He disappeared one night, just like you described. No one has seen him since." A chill raced down her spine as the weight of his words sank in. "But he was there," she insisted, her voice rising with disbelief. "He was real." The locals exchanged glances, their silence speaking volumes. "Believe what you want," the older man replied. "But sometimes reality isn't what it seems. And sometimes the roads hold on to those who don't know when to leave." Her heart sank as she realized the chilling truth. The enigmatic man with the haunting smile had vanished without a trace, leaving her to question her sanity. Had he ever existed? Or was he merely a figment of a restless night? The thought lingered like a shadow, casting doubt on everything she thought she knew. As she left the diner, the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in the air. The road stretched ahead, beckoning her onward, but now it felt less like a path to freedom and more like a journey into the unknown. And with every passing mile, she couldn't shake the feeling that she might not be alone. Story 2. The Whispering Pumps. It was the kind of night that seemed to stretch endlessly, the horizon swallowed by darkness. A weary couple, Matt and Julia, were on a road trip to visit family, their excitement dulled by hours of driving and a persistent sense of unease that had settled in like an unwelcome guest. They had planned this trip for months, but car troubles had thrown a wrench in their plans, forcing them to stop at a gas station on a desolate highway, far from the familiarity of home. As they pulled into the lot, the flickering lights of the gas station illuminated their tired faces, the weary couple both relieved and apprehensive. Matt stepped out of the car, the cool air biting at his skin as he surveyed the area. The station appeared old and weathered, its gas pumps standing like silent sentinels, worn by time. He waved to Julia, who was still in the car, her eyes heavy with fatigue. "Let's just fill up and get back on the road," he called out, trying to shake off the lingering discomfort that gnawed at him. Julia nodded, reluctantly stepping out and joining him at the pump. As Matt began filling the tank, Julia leaned against the car, rubbing her arms for warmth. The wind rustled through the trees lining the road, a sound that almost felt alive in the stillness of the night. It was then that they heard it, faint at first, like the rustle of leaves in a gentle breeze. "Did you hear that?" Julia asked, her brow furrowing in confusion. Matt paused, straining to listen. "It's probably just the wind," he replied, but doubt seeped into his voice. The whispers grew clearer, dancing on the edges of their consciousness, but they couldn't make out the words. As the gas pump hissed and clicked, Julia felt an inexplicable chill run down her spine. The whispers seemed to curl around her like a shroud, growing louder, a cacophony of voices merging into one haunting chorus. They spoke of secrets, of doubts, of unspoken fears that had lingered between them for too long. "Julia," one voice whispered, so familiar yet alien. "Do you really trust him?" Matt glanced at her, concern etched across his features. "Are you okay?" he asked, sensing the change in her demeanor. I think I'm fine," she stammered, but the words felt hollow, lost amidst the overwhelming tide of whispers. As the gas continued to flow, the whispers escalated, intertwining with their thoughts, dragging their insecurities into the light. "He's hiding something from you," another voice hissed, sending shivers through Julia. "You know he's not the man you think he is. Why are you stopping here?" The voice was sharper now, echoing in her mind, filling her with doubt. "You deserve better than this." Matt's voice broke through her reverie. "What is happening? Julia, talk to me." She turned to him, fear flickering in her eyes. "Did you hear that? They're saying things about us about you." The atmosphere felt charged, a palpable tension hanging between them like a thick fog. "It's just a trick of the mind," he insisted, though his own voice trembled as uncertainty gnawed at him. "You know I love you, right? Do you?" Julia shot back, the whispering voices feeding her insecurities, their words wrapping around her heart like a vice. "What if you don't mean it?" The shadows of their doubts lengthened in the dim light of the gas station, the once familiar bond between them fraying under the weight of unspoken fears. With each whisper, they began to question everything: their love, their choices, and whether they were truly meant to be together. As the pump clicked off, signaling that the tank was full, the whispers reached a fever pitch. "Leave him. You'll be happier alone." Matt was visibly shaken, his eyes darting around as if expecting to find the source of the sinister voices. "We need to go, Julia," he urged, desperation creeping into his tone. "But what if they're right?" she countered, the flicker of doubt igniting into a flame. "What if we're just pretending?" "Stop it," he yelled, frustration boiling over. "This is insane. We can't let some crazy gas station mess with our heads." With shaking hands, Julia climbed into the car, her heart racing. Matt followed suit, slamming the door behind him. They sat in silence for a moment, the quiet of the night wrapping around them. But the whispers still echoed in their minds, taunting and relentless. Were they real? Julia finally whispered, her voice trembling as she searched his face for reassurance. Or was it just us? "I don't know," Matt admitted, his own uncertainty clear. "But I know I love you, Julia. We'll figure this out together." The tension hung heavy in the air, a chasm that felt insurmountable. As Matt turned the key in the ignition, the car rumbled to life, but their journey was far from over. They left the gas station behind, the night swallowing it whole as they drove away, unsure of what had just happened. With every mile they put between themselves and the gas station, the whispers faded into the background, but the doubt lingered. They shared a glance, the silence stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. The night had changed them, had peeled back layers of their relationship they were unprepared to confront. As they continued down the road, the landscape shifted, but the unease settled deeper into their hearts. The gas station had held a mirror to their fears, reflecting the cracks in their relationship. They had escaped its grasp, but the question remained: were they truly stronger for it? Or had the night only revealed the first cracks in their fragile facade? The car sped into the darkness, leaving behind the haunting whispers of the gas pumps. But as they drove on, the uncertainty hung thick in the air, a reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't the ones lurking in the shadows, but the ones hiding in our hearts. Story 3: Secrets of a Night Shift. The night stretched out before him like an endless void, a time when shadows danced in the flickering light of the gas station. 17-year-old Tyler had taken the job at the station to earn some extra cash, a decision made in the heat of a summer day, not fully understanding the weight of his choice. As he settled into the routine of the night shift, he quickly realized that the hours dragged on in the eerie silence, interrupted only by the occasional hum of passing cars or the creak of the old building settling into the night. Tyler had always been a curious kid, often getting lost in the pages of his favorite horror novels. Little did he know, the gas station would soon serve as his own chilling story. It was a quaint establishment, with a small convenience store attached and dimly lit gas pumps standing sentinel outside. The owner, Mr. Jenkins, was a reclusive man who rarely ventured beyond the register. Tyler often wondered about the station's history, as rumors swirled in town about its haunted past. On that particular night, a storm brewed in the distance, casting dark clouds over the horizon and sending shivers down his spine. As the wind howled outside, he could hear the steady drip of rain beginning to pelt the roof, echoing in the stillness. Bored and restless, Tyler decided to explore the back of the station, an area he had yet to venture into during his shifts. The door creaked ominously as he pushed it open, the air inside thick with dust and the scent of something long forgotten. In the far corner, partially concealed by boxes and old equipment, he discovered a hidden door. His heart raced with both fear and excitement as he reached for the rusty handle. The door groaned in protest as it opened, revealing a narrow stairway that spiraled down into darkness. Tyler hesitated, glancing back at the comforting glow of the main area, but curiosity won out. With a deep breath, he stepped inside, the door closing behind him with a heavy thud. As he descended, the air grew colder, a chill creeping up his spine. The stairs led him to a small room lined with dusty shelves filled with forgotten artifacts. Old photographs, tarnished trophies, and news clippings that chronicled the gas station's long, murky history. He scanned the room, his eyes landing on a framed newspaper article dated back to the early 90s. The headline read, "Gas station employee mysteriously disappears. No leads in investigation." His heart raced as he pieced together the story of a young man who had worked the very shift Tyler was now enduring. Something about the room felt alive, as if the walls were watching him, holding their breath. As he examined the artifacts, he felt an unshakable presence behind him, a sense that he was not alone. Tyler spun around, his heart pounding. Before him stood a figure, translucent and flickering like a dying light. The spirit of the former employee hovered just inches from him, his eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and urgency. "You shouldn't be here," the spirit whispered, the voice echoing with a haunting resonance. "This place, it's dangerous. You need to leave before it's too late." "What happened to you?" Tyler stammered, both terrified and captivated by the ghostly presence. The spirit reached out, his hand trembling as he tried to convey his warning. "I was trapped, caught in something I couldn't escape. You don't understand what lurks in the shadows here." Fear gripped Tyler as he glanced around, the air thickening with a palpable dread. The shadows began to twist and shift, contorting into grotesque shapes that seemed to whisper his name. "I didn't mean to disturb you," he managed to say, backing away slowly, the ghost's warning echoing in his mind. "Get out," the spirit urged, desperation lacing his words. "They're watching, always watching. Don't let them take you, too." The ground felt unsteady beneath Tyler's feet as panic surged within him. He turned and fled, racing up the stairs two at a time, the whispers of the spirits trailing behind him like a chilling wind. The door slammed shut behind him as he burst into the main area, gasping for breath, his heart pounding like a drum in his chest. Tyler didn't stop to collect himself. He ran to the front, locking the door and flipping the closed sign to signal to anyone who might come that he was done for the night. The storm raged outside, lightning illuminating the gas station with flashes of blinding light, and thunder roared like an angry beast. He felt the weight of the station's dark history pressing down on him, the knowledge of what he had uncovered clawing at his mind. That night, as he drove home, Tyler couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The shadows seemed to follow him, the whispers echoing in his ears, a reminder of the secrets he had unearthed. Sleep eluded him, and the visions of the hidden room haunted his dreams, an endless loop of the ghostly figure warning him, the artifacts bearing witness to the darkness that lingered just beneath the surface. In the days that followed, the gas station felt different to him. Each time he drove by, he cast wary glances toward its flickering lights, half expecting to see the spirit standing by the door, waiting for him to return. The sense of unease grew as the whispers echoed in his mind, haunting him with every passing moment. Tyler often wondered if anyone else had encountered the spirit, if the station held more secrets that had yet to be uncovered. He had escaped, but the burden of knowledge weighed heavily on his heart. He couldn't shake the feeling that the gas station watched him, that its dark secrets were intertwined with his own fate. From that day on, he never stepped foot inside that gas station again. The night shift had revealed more than just the shadows lurking in the corners. It had unveiled the darkest parts of human history and the spirits that lingered in their wake. The secrets of the night shift would remain locked away, But Tyler knew he would never truly be free of their haunting presence. Story 4. Ghosts of the Gas Station. Under a canopy of stars and a silvery moon, the gas station stood alone on the deserted stretch of highway, its weathered sign creaking in the night breeze. It had long been a place of whispered tales and unsettling encounters, a reputation that drew the attention of Sarah Hayes, a determined paranormal investigator known for her unyielding curiosity and dedication to uncovering the truth behind the supernatural. Armed with an array of sophisticated equipment, digital voice recorders, infrared cameras, and EMF detectors, Sarah pulled into the gas station parking lot, her heart racing with a blend of excitement and trepidation. The station, with its dim lighting and shadows that seemed to breathe, had earned its reputation not just from local lore, but also from the tragic history that surrounded it. An accident decades ago had claimed the life of a young girl, and many claimed that her spirit lingered, seeking resolution for the unfinished business that tethered her to this earthly realm. As Sarah stepped out of her car, the air was thick with an unsettling energy. She set her gear on the hood, taking a moment to absorb the atmosphere, feeling as though the night itself was alive with anticipation. She walked towards the entrance, glancing at the gas pumps that stood like silent sentinels, each one holding stories untold. Once inside, she greeted the lone figure behind the counter, Mr. Jenkins, who regarded her with a mixture of curiosity and caution. "You sure you want to do this?" he asked, his voice gravelly with age. "This place has a way of revealing itself, and it's not always pretty." "I'm here to help," Sarah replied with a confident smile, though a flicker of doubt gnawed at her. She knew that some spirits were content to share their stories, while others were not so willing to let go of their pain. With the station now closing for the night, Sarah meticulously set up her equipment, positioning cameras to capture any unusual activity while she began her investigation. She activated her digital voice recorder, the soft whir of machinery echoing in the quiet. "If there are any spirits here, I invite you to communicate with me," she said, her voice steady yet filled with respect. "I'm here to listen to your stories." As the hours wore on, the eerie stillness was occasionally pierced by strange noises. The soft tapping of unseen fingers, the flicker of lights overhead, and the unsettling feeling that she was not alone. Sarah reviewed the footage periodically, her heart pounding each time she thought she saw something out of the corner of her eye. Then, in a moment that sent chills cascading down her spine, she captured a flicker on the camera, an ephemeral figure of a young girl with long, flowing hair standing by the gas pumps. Sarah's breath hitched, and she instinctively moved closer to the apparition. "Can you show me your name?" she whispered, her curiosity igniting like a flame. To her shock, the girl's face twisted into a mask of sorrow, her eyes reflecting a deep sadness that resonated within Sarah's very core. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and the lights began to flicker wildly. The girl's spirit moved, gesturing as if beckoning Sarah to follow. With a mixture of fear and determination, she ventured outside, the cameras capturing the moments as she stepped into the unknown. The ghost led her to a shadowy corner of the gas station lot, where remnants of a long-forgotten tragedy lay hidden beneath layers of dust and neglect. "What happened here?" Sarah asked, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. In an instant, the scene transformed, the air thickened, and Sarah was no longer alone. She found herself witnessing the tragic accident. The sound of screeching tires, the frantic cries, and then a piercing silence that enveloped the night. It was as if she were transported back in time, forced to relive the heart-wrenching moment that had stolen the girl's life. "Please, help me," the spirit cried, her voice a haunting echo that reverberated through Sarah's mind. The investigator felt the girl's anguish as she relived the moments of fear and confusion, trapped in a cycle of despair that had lingered since that fateful night. Sarah reached out, desperately trying to connect. "You don't have to be afraid anymore," she pleaded, tears filling her eyes. "Your story needs to be told. You are not alone." With a final, wrenching scream, the spirit began to dissipate, her energy swirling around Sarah like a soft breeze. "Thank you," the girl whispered, her form shimmering before vanishing into the night. As the apparition faded, the air felt lighter, as if a great weight had been lifted from the gas station itself. Shaken yet enlightened, Sarah returned to her equipment, her heart pounding with a mix of adrenaline and sorrow. She had come seeking evidence, but what she found was far more profound, an understanding of the pain that lingered in the spaces between life and death. The spirits were not merely haunting the gas station. They were trapped in their narratives, yearning for someone to acknowledge their pain. As she packed up her gear, the atmosphere around her felt transformed. She caught Mr. Jenkins watching her from inside the station, a knowing look in his eyes. "You found her, didn't you?" he said quietly, almost reverently. "Yes," Sarah replied, her voice tinged with emotion. "I think I did." With a heavy heart, but a mind racing with thoughts, she left the gas station, forever changed by her encounter with the past. The experience had taught her that curiosity carried consequences, some far heavier than she could have imagined. Driving away, the gas station receded in her rearview mirror, but the echoes of that night would remain with her always. Sarah understood that the stories of the dead were just as vital as those of the living. They reminded her of the fragility of life and the importance of listening to the whispers of the past. In the end, the ghosts of the gas station had shared their truth, and it was a truth that would guide her in her future investigations. A reminder that each spirit carried with them the weight of their own history, and every investigation was a journey not just into the unknown, but into the very heart of humanity itself. Story 5. Dreams of the Damned. Every week, Jake Reynolds, a seasoned truck driver, made his way down the same stretch of highway, a desolate ribbon of asphalt that seemed to stretch endlessly through the rural heart of America. Along this route, the lone gas station became a familiar stop, an oasis in the isolation of the dark nights. But recently, Jake had noticed something unsettling. Every time he filled up his rig, he felt a chill, an unshakable sense of dread that clung to him like a second skin. It wasn't just the atmosphere of the station, it was what awaited him in his dreams. It began innocuously enough. After a long night on the road, he would return to the cab of his truck, collapse into his seat, and drift into a restless sleep. But soon, his dreams transformed into something far more sinister. Night after night, he was thrust into vivid, horrifying visions that gripped him tightly, rendering him unable to wake up until they played out their terrible course. In these dreams, Jake found himself surrounded by past customers of the gas station, figures he vaguely recognized, their faces twisted in anguish. He watched helplessly as they recounted their last moments before tragedy struck. One woman, her hair blowing in a phantom wind, relayed the chilling tale of her car breaking down on a dark night, her screams for help swallowed by the oppressive silence of the road. A young couple, too eager to reach their destination, met a horrific fate on the very stretch of highway Jake drove. Each face haunted him, each story a dagger to his heart, and they were all linked by one common thread: the gas station. As the dreams escalated, they became more than mere recollections. They morphed into vivid warnings, each with a lesson painfully etched into Jake's psyche. He began to recognize the patterns. The dreams were not just mere hauntings. They were a desperate plea from the dead, urging him to heed the dangers that loomed ahead. In one particularly harrowing night, he found himself standing in front of the gas pumps, the spirits swirling around him, their voices a cacophony of terror. "Leave this place," they cried, their ethereal hands reaching out to him. "Don't follow in our footsteps." Awakening in a cold sweat, Jake would stare at the ceiling of his truck, heart racing, mind racing even faster. How could he ignore the message? Each morning after those dreams, he would pull into the gas station, still unsure whether to trust the visions that haunted him. The smell of gasoline hung thick in the air, mingling with the distant echo of his nightmares. Mr. Jenkins would greet him with the same cautious expression, as if he could sense the torment churning within Jake's mind. "I'm just here for fuel," Jake would reply, forcing a smile while his insides twisted in knots. But it was never just fuel anymore. The gas station felt like a vortex, pulling him in with every visit, each stop a reminder of the darkness waiting to ensnare him. He couldn't shake the feeling that it was watching him, calculating when it might next lay its trap. As the dreams continued, Jake began to withdraw from the road, the once familiar route now filled with tension and anxiety. He started taking detours, trying to shake off the feeling that something sinister awaited him at the gas station. Yet, the dreams persisted, each one growing more urgent, each one revealing another grim fate tied to the gas station and the road that stretched out before him. The visions were relentless, and Jake felt like a prisoner to his own mind. Finally, after yet another night spent wrestling with the horrors that unfolded in his dreams, Jake reached his breaking point. As dawn crept over the horizon, casting long shadows across the highway, he made a choice that would alter the course of his life. He awoke that morning, a determination coursing through him. "No more," he muttered to himself. He took a deep breath and shifted into gear, driving past the familiar exit that led to the gas station. For the first time in years, he took a different route, one that veered away from the place that had become a dark chapter in his life. Relief washed over him like the first rays of sunlight breaking through the clouds, and for a moment, he felt free. Yet, even as he drove on, the shadows of the gas station lingered in his mind. The memories of the faces he had seen in his dreams haunted him, refusing to fade completely. It was as though their warnings had etched themselves into his very being, a constant reminder of the darkness that existed just beyond the horizon. As he journeyed along the new road, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was leaving behind something important, a duty unfulfilled. The faces of the damned, their eyes pleading, clung to his consciousness, a reminder of the lives lost and the dangers that could await those who ventured into the night. Jake knew that, while he had escaped the gas station for now, the dreams would remain with him, etched in the corners of his mind, whispering tales of sorrow and despair. The shadows of the past, he realized, could never be fully extinguished, but perhaps, by breaking the cycle, he had taken the first step towards finding peace. Yet, in the quiet of his cab as he drove into the sunrise, he wondered, would the dreams ever truly fade, or were they destined to follow him, an eternal reminder of the road not taken? With every mile, he felt a mixture of relief and fear, knowing that the nightmares may have shifted but would always be a part of him. As the night deepens and the last remnants of daylight fade away, the stories woven together in this eerie tapestry resonate like distant whispers in the wind. Each tale, whether it be the vanishing customer, the unsettling whispers from the pumps, the secrets unearthed during a sleepless night shift, the confrontations with vengeful spirits, or the haunting dreams of the damned, serves as a reminder of the pervasive themes that bind them. Fear, isolation, and the supernatural lurking just beneath the surface of ordinary life. In a world that often encourages us to dismiss the unexplained, these narratives urge us to confront the unknown with a sense of respect and caution. The characters in each story encountered situations that forced them to grapple with their deepest fears and instincts. Whether it was the young woman feeling the weight of isolation as she faced an enigmatic figure, the weary couple questioning the foundations of their love amidst unsettling whispers, or the teenage boy uncovering the sinister secrets of his workplace, they all learned that ignorance of the supernatural can lead to dire consequences. Each experience serves as a cautionary tale, echoing the importance of heeding warnings and listening to that inner voice urging us to tread carefully. These stories remind us that the gas station is not merely a place for refueling. It is a symbol of life's unpredictability and the darker forces that often go unnoticed in our daily routines. Each character was drawn to this seemingly mundane location, only to discover that it harbors the extraordinary and the eerie. The gas station becomes a metaphor for those moments in life when we must confront the unknown and the possibility of danger that lies just out of sight. As I reflect on these chilling encounters, I cannot help but wonder how many others have had similar experiences in places they thought they knew. The next time you pull into a gas station, take a moment to consider what lurks in the shadows, waiting to make its presence known. The stories of those who have come before us remind us to remain vigilant, for the line between the ordinary and the extraordinary is often razor thin. So, as you fuel your vehicle and prepare to continue your journey, remember this chilling reminder. The next stop at a gas station might just fuel your nightmares. In the quiet hum of the pumps and the flickering light overhead, the echoes of the past linger, waiting for their chance to ensnare the unsuspecting traveler. Stay alert, stay aware, and perhaps, just perhaps, your journey will remain undisturbed by the specters of the gas station's haunting tales.